No getting out here early in the morning, heart of South Philly. Let's go see what the people have got to say.
I'm ready to roll, baby.
Now listen here, Dutch. Mets and the Cowboys, they suck.
1, 2, 3, go Birds! Go Birds! Here we go, 3, 2 birds, Geno Stakes. Go Birds! Oh my gosh, Chad.
Your favorite Chicagoan. Go Phils.
As always, God bless. Go Birds.
Get your water ice and soft pretzels ready because you are now tuned into a 302 Birds podcast experience. Proudly presented by TickPick, Nick's Pizza, El Diablo Burritos, and Klondike Kate's on the heart of Main Street. Let's take it to the show.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Phillies pregame show here on the Philly Sports Pulse. My name is Jesse Sharon. Alongside me is my boy Adam Den. But folks, I just have one thing to say.
You're stoked, Steve!
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby!
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings! Said Mike.
That's right, folks. We're talking about the fightings here. It's game day. Opening day has arrived. Christopher Sanchez on the freaking bump. Adam, I am hype as all hell. You've got Hall of Fame tickets. Are you hype as well?
I am incredibly hyped, Jess. It's been a long time coming. I've spent the couple months trying to get to be psyched because we know where this team is at. But once opening day hits and we get to see baseball again, man, it doesn't even matter the quality or what we think they're going to do. I'm just excited to be back at the bank and see the life come through that arena.
It absolutely is. There is no place on earth that gets as loud and as raucous as the Phillies Citizens Bank Park as it does in playoff time. But even I would not be surprised, shocked at all, if it gets nutty today, because you've got our guy Christopher Sanchez on the bump, and we'll start with him and this Phillies rotation overall, because man, they have the chance to go out and be awesome. We put out a hot take sort of post the other day, and I said that Christopher Sanchez is going to have an insane year, a year with an ERA under 2, something around 1.5, I think I said, and a Cy Young finish. You said that the Phillies are going to have 3, count them, 3 Cy Young finishes in the top 10. And I can see that too. I can totally see that. I think that Wheeler, once he's back, he's going to do great. I think Sanchez obviously is due. Nola, I mean, it's an even year, Nola.
He looked great. He looked great in the World Baseball Classic, right?
He absolutely did. He was the surprise. He helped Italy become the surprise team that they were. So Nola, he's got the potential to look good. Jesus Luzardo, I think the Phillies just locked him up to a hefty extension. So, I mean, there's a chance that he goes out there. Actually, I'd say that Jesus Luzardo, outside of 2 starts, he was fantastic last year. He had an ERA, I think, somewhere outside of those 2 starts with like a low 3 ERA. I'm taking that every day of the week. And Andrew Painter, he is the X factor, I feel like, in this rotation, even as 5th starter, sharing it with that bum in Taijuan Walker.
But Taijuan Walker had a good spring, right? And that's, while you're waiting for Andrew Painter to kind of step into the fold, I think Taijuan Walker is still a guy who could be relevant. And I love what you said about Luzardo. I mean, when I sent that to you and I said top 3, in my eyes, that was Luzardo, Wheeler, and obviously Chris Sanchez. But, I mean, I think Noah could be in that mix as well and have it be 4 in the top 10 in the Cy Young conversation. It really is one of the best rotations in baseball, and that's, thrilling on a nightly basis.
Now, you want to talk about thrilling. This whole Bryce Harper situation, if it goes right. Now, we all remember a few months ago when Dave Dombrowski, like I like to call him, went out there on the podium and said, "Oh, Bryce Harper's not elite anymore." I wasn't buying it before, but after the World Baseball Classic home run, and after time and time again, we've seen that when Bryce Harper gets disrespected, he responds. I see no way that Bryce Harper doesn't have an absolutely electric year this year. We remember a few years ago, the Orlando Arcia attaboy, chant or holler by him or whatever it was. And then in the next game, what does he do? He hits 2 home runs and he stares Orlando Arcia right in the damn. So, that being said, I would be kind of surprised if Bryce Harper didn't come back with major vengeance.
Yeah, Jess. I mean, I think that is certainly the hope. Every year has shown more signs of aging, but that home run kind of showed the kind of belief that I think within a fan base that we continue to have in him and organizationally. But I think I'm more interested, honestly, in the guys around him and their ability to step up, even if Bryce isn't the same consistent player that he was a year ago. Can it be a year where Trey Turner continues to improve and replicate the production he did a year ago? Can it be a year where Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm finally take that step, right? Like we were texting earlier about how great of a spring Bryson Stott has had, and can this be a year where somebody put in their bold predictions he can be a 20-20 guy? That would be huge. Alec Bohm, I mean, it's been a time with Alec Bohm, that's for sure. Can this be a year where he finally starts to put it together a little bit? I think everything around Bryce Harper is more of a question to me, and I'm excited to see if they can deliver in a way that maybe helps him deliver in his own respect.
It absolutely is. And, folks, we have a little bit of a special guest. You guys actually have never met before, but this is a proud member of the 302 Mafia from Broad Street Sports. Please welcome into the show Ryan Knight, everybody. Ryan, how we doing? You're a black screen, but how we doing? And you Ryan, you there, buddy? Ryan, leave. I don't know if you can hear us, but leave the stream if you can. And you know what? While he figures out his technical issues, you talked about the heart of the lineup, and another X factor, another huge key to this whole thing. You talked about Trey Adolis Garcia. I think he's got the potential to have a insane year offensively in the home run department. He played out in Texas, which, I mean, if you just take 5 looks at that thing, that is not a hitter-friendly ballpark. So this is Bank Park, on the other hand. Yeah, barn box. And this guy, while he hasn't had the best couple of years, he is huge. He's got insane muscle, and he's done something that half of this roster has not done. Performed in the postseason. He's just been a guy that I think can add some veteran leadership to the squad. He's got, I think, a flair to him that this lineup doesn't have. It's full of, I guess stereotypical white dudes, if I'm being completely real. JT, whoa, he's good, but I don't know. Kyle Schwarber, he's, a guy that great leader, but doesn't exactly get you fired up, although he does with his 50 home runs. It's a confusing, it's a confusing logic, I think. But Adolis, the bat flips he does, the hype he shows, to his teammates, to the dugout, to the fans. It's something that I think this city really needs. You didn't have it last year with Jose Alvarado. We'll get into him and how he does, but I think that he might be a big ad coming into 2026 for sure.
Yeah, that's the hope, Jess. He's a guy who had a rough spring, and so you're gonna have to look at him to kind of turn it around there. But when they added him, it's certainly a much bigger addition than they made in the past, right? Last year, everybody wants to compare it to Max Kepler. Adolis Garcia has a lot more proven in Major League Baseball, as you kind of pointed to, than Max Kepler ever did. So bringing him into the fold, I think even if he's not any kind of crazy offensive player, what he brings defensively as a fielder is automatically a serious upgrade over Nick Castellanos, and that's going to be huge for this lineup. And then you also have a guy right there in Otto Kemp who was hurt all last season. This team really seems to have a lot of belief in, and the balance between the two of them, hopefully, almost definitely will be an upgrade over Castellanos.
One more thing about the Phils, and then we'll kind of move on. Bryson Stott, he, to me, is another guy that has the potential to really have a breakout year. He started out his freshman year, and he was great. He hit something in the marks of 270 to 290. Cooled off a little bit in the 2022 playoffs, and then has had a little bit of a down year since, although he's had some, flashes here and there. The home run against he had a walk-off home run a few years ago against the Angels. It was that game that there was a kid that was like crying for a walk-off home run to happen.
I was at that game, Jess.
Oh, you were? Wait a minute. Oh my God, I was too.
Yep.
I was before we knew that we existed, but it was, that was a sick game. You had the Bryce Harper slam earlier.
We were ready to leave.
Before
we were standing on right by Bull's Barbecue in Ashburn Alley, waiting to leave. And then Bryce hit that home run, and we stood there the whole time.
Yeah. Listen, that's the way to do it.
Yep.
Bryson Stott, huge year for him. I think he had a really good sustained mark of success in the second half of the year against right-handed pitching. I think he had something like a 340, 350 batting average against righties. It's the lefties that give me pause, really, for this entire Phillies lineup to begin with. Brandon March, if we can get Broad back or slash Ryan back on the show. I've heard him say time and again, this team cannot hit lefties at all. Especially, you've got Brandon Marsh, but Bryson Stott. Literally, you have that game against the Dodgers, and what does he do? Instead of try to get a hit in game 2, he goes for the bunt, and then Castellanos gets nailed down at third. I feel like that's managerial outpractice from Rob Thompson, but that's besides the point. This team, if they want to win, they gotta learn how to hit in the playoffs. But they need a lefty outside of Schwarber, because for some reason Kyle Schwarber is Jesus against left-handed pitching. They need a left-handed hitter that can be at least serviceable in 2026.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Jess. And I mean, the hope is that Bryson's going to be able to turn it around. Like we said, he's really had an incredible spring. And Dotto Kemp as well has been really good against lefties. So we'll find out if this lineup is going to be able to put it together. But I think this series is a great test, right? You got Eovaldi on the mound today, a really stout rotation for the Texas Rangers. And, even though it's really early in the season, we're going to get to see a lot of good matchups.
Yeah, we absolutely are, Adam. I'll hit the Castellanos point, and then we got to move on to the Elijah Morris signing. If that were to happen as the voice of the 302 intros proclaims, shout out Benny, University of Delaware guy.
Go Blue Hens.
Go Blue. Well, I can't say that. I'm a Penn State guy. But no, I know. I'm gonna get to that later.
You can say that just fine.
Yeah,
it's like, what did Joel say after the Celtics beat him in 2017? It's not a rivalry.
This ain't
our ass
really
every
doing.
year. Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, Castellanos. I was, I supported the move when the Phillies let him go, for sure. I think he's had a worse spring than Justin, than Adolis, average wise, from what I've seen. So I don't know. I don't know if he gets cut from the Padres, because that bottom of their lineup needs help.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. After Machado, Merrill, Cronenworth, Bogaerts, it doesn't look right there. Yeah.
No, it's rough. Now, that being said, I still believe that their bullpen and well, I guess starting pitching to an extent, it is insane. But I'll hit you with one more question, then we'll move on. Talking from a broad sense, everybody's like, "Oh, the Dodgers, they're gonna three-peat. They're gonna three-peat." Are you on that train as well?
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's the most talented team in baseball, and they only got better. So I don't really see many scenarios in which they don't win. If somebody else is going to win, I think the Mariners are in prime position. They just continue to get better. It's a really deep lineup. It's such a great pitching staff. I mean, we just went on and on about how the Phillies have, 4 guys who are going to be top 10 in the Cy Young race. The Mariners might too. So that's it's going to be terrifying, and a really good bullpen as well. So I think they can certainly be in the mix with the Dodgers if I was going to throw anybody in that rotation. But I think those are kind of the 2 teams, and then the Mets and the Phillies are kind of lagging behind in their own little tier in my eyes.
Yeah, I just hope that Bo Bichette doesn't come to butt us in the ass this season. Speaking of the Mets, but we'll see how that goes for sure. Alrighty, let's move on to Elijah Moore signing a 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. For some reason, I swear, I was looking for an hour and a half, and I could not find the compensation on the guy. So it must have
It
been,
probably isn't out yet.
It,
The Fred Johnson compensation isn't out yet either. So
yeah.
I guess
mean,
it's under $2 million.
Yeah, I would guess it's a cheap deal.
Yeah.
Which, if that's the case, I love it. I absolutely love it. The dude, even though it seems like he's played for a million teams at this point, dude, he's still 25. He's still 25 years old. He's a 2,000-yard receiver. He came off a couple years ago with a great season with the Browns. So, for a 1-year deal, why not take a flyer on this dude? I know that you still have Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and a plethora of wide receivers at this point. But remember when a few years ago, it didn't happen, obviously, but at one point, the Eagles were kind of a QB factory, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You had Jalen Hurts,
Still are.
Nate Studfield,
Tanner McKee.
Carson Wentz. You had all those guys that, on one team. And yeah, I guess you could argue that, you still do, depending on, I guess, how the Tanner McKee situation turns out. And now, Andy Dalton. They just got him. I totally forgot. So, I mean, at this point, yeah, you could argue that the Eagles are a QB factory. But with the AJ situation in mind, do you think it's a smart idea that the Eagles did this deal and to maybe turn this organization into a wide receiver factory?
Yeah, Jess. I mean, it's not really something that I think is going to be that impactful either way, to be honest with you. I think this is, at best, a guy who could be like a wide receiver 4 or 5 on this roster, and at worst, he's a guy who gets cut in camp. He was up and down a year ago, and when he played was not very effective. The juice was not there as an athlete. He's still a fine route runner, but he was also playing in a pretty horrible situation in Buffalo, in which their entire wide receiver core was really just inept in that room, and weren't really able to get much going. So I think new situation in Philadelphia, maybe he breaks through, becomes a name, but I think this is more just adding depth at the position and looking to build it out. Same thing as Hollywood Brown. I view this similarly to how when the Eagles signed Azeez Ojulari a year ago, right? You're buying a guy who's young, as a camp name, who's showed something in the past, right? He's shown an ability to work over the middle of the field, be an okay route runner, even if he isn't the most explosive athlete. So I think it's a fine move. It's probably less than $1 million, and we'll see if he manages to get in there on this team.
Now, you mentioned him before we kind of got into this. But Fred Johnson's back. Again, we don't know the compensation. So, again, it probably is a cheap deal.
Yeah.
But, I mean, honestly, I kind of ripped on Freddie, last show. But when you're filling in against for a guy that I feel like I could be a better run stopper than in Matt Pryor. Dude, he was awful. You can't you can't say that he wasn't. Yeah. But that being said, Fred Johnson, he's not like Jason Kelce by any stretch of the imagination. But he filled out well for the Eagles this season. I think a little later on, it got a little messy. I feel like I saw some penalties. I think near the end there. But if it's a cheap deal, I'm all for the Eagles getting back Fred Johnson.
Yeah, Jess. I mean, he had a rough season last year. Was probably a below average right tackle in this league, but I think what Fred Johnson gives you is not only depth if Lane Johnson gets hurt, because we know this team is going to need that, and I assume they're going to look to draft that as well. I mean, the consensus, I think, is that in the first round, they're going to look to target a Caleb Lobu or a Caden Proctor or some tackle that's going to, in the early rounds, that's going to recertify that depth. But he also gives you a sixth offensive lineman that you can work in that 13 personnel like you started implementing before Lane Johnson got hurt. And what made the run game just a little bit easier, if you think back to that Dallas game and how effectively they were able to run the football early in that game before Lane gets hurt, the large part of that is their ability to go into these heavy packages and get the football downhill. So I think the more they look to implement that this season, especially in a new Sean Mannion offense in which that and play action out of that is kind of a staple, I think the better this offense can be, and just continuing to philosophically grow and evolve as an offense. Fred Johnson can be a key part of that.
Yeah. So you've got him. You've got a new wide receiver, and I guess the question is now, what's next? Draft's coming up. You mentioned, the offensive line position. Do you still think that is priority number one?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, Jess. I think, especially early in this draft, when you look at this draft class, there is just a plethora of tackles that range from like the late first to early second grade is kind of where I have them, and then we'll dive into that at a later point. But those are guys that you can stick in and really put through the developmental cycle in this year, where you're still going to have Lane Johnson on your team, and then you have a starter prepared to go when Lane inevitably fades off into the sunset a year or two from now. So I think that should definitely be the target. The main target. This is also just for the Eagles' other needs, not a fantastic class, right? The edge rusher depth, there's a couple guys I like late. There's a guy named Gabe Jackus who's kind of rising up my board. He's a lot of fun.
It's a good name.
He's a good name. He's from Illinois. You would like him a lot, Jess. He's a monster athlete. You got to watch a little bit of him. But he's a guy who I'm looking out for. There's a couple others. There's the edge rusher from Texas A&M, whose name I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but he's another guy who could be a factor. I'm not a big fan of his. But, this isn't a great class in the first round and the second round for depth at those other positions like edge, corner, a little bit for safety, but I think those guys are going to go a little earlier than the Eagles want. So I think offensive tackle should be the priority that they put first and foremost.
Yeah, I agree about your Texas A&M. I hate. I'm a Penn State guy, but I have some boys out in Oklahoma, so
yeah,
it's not much, but I have a little bit of Boomer fan.
Cass Howell, that's his name. I just remembered it. He's got some very short arms, Mr. Howell. He's a good rusher, but he's got some very short arms. Can't have that.
Hey, man, we had a little bit of success with what's his name, Sam Howell, a few years ago.
He did. That's true.
So maybe there's a little spark there. But all right, so the Eagles doing good stuff. Phillies hopefully getting the win. There is. What is happening? There's actually positive things going on in the Philly world. The Sixers, are they back? They got Joel Embiid back. They got Paul George back. And what does Joel do? He puts up 35 points. Paul George, he dominates defensively. VJ, in that loss against Oklahoma, he puts up 30-something. All of a sudden, it feels like, I know, novel concept. When you have your entire team healthy on the floor, good things happen as a result.
Yeah, Jess. I'm going to slow the brakes on this one. It was the Chicago Bulls. And that team that, I'm a proud NBA League Pass man. I will watch a ton of it till the day I die. I cannot say I've been turning on very much Chicago Bulls over the past 3 weeks, and that is for a very good reason. So yeah. As far as the Sixers though, the team being healthy, we knew was going to be the X factor. The reality just is that there are still 13 games until the NBA playoffs start, and I have no trust or faith that this team is going to remain healthy and together up until that point. And beyond that, once we reach the NBA playoffs, once we reach the physicality of playoff basketball, I have no faith that these guys are going to be able to, especially Joel Embiid, is going to be able to hold up in that sense. So I hate to be Mr. Doomer, but I really do think that is the case. Now, if we're talking about getting out the play-in, I think things do look a little on the brighter side. But I think that comes not with anything to do with the Sixers, right? The Hornets have looked better as of late, but I think as a defense, the Sixers, as a defense, they're going to struggle against the Philadelphia 76ers team that has Joel Embiid, such a dominant post player, with a team like Ryan Kalkbrenner at center. Moussa Diabate has been good, but he's a little undersized. The Magic have lost like 4 or 5 straight. They have looked horrible on both ends of the floor over the past couple games. That's a beatable team. The Miami Heat, the Sixers have had success against over the course of this season. They have a pivotal game against them on Monday to kind of beat them for the 7 or the 8 seed. I think that game is going to be a must watch. So there are a lot of factors going on that I think could help elevate the Sixers maybe even into the 6th seed and give them a playoff series. But I have zero faith that they're going to be able to do anything with that, to be real.
Now, we haven't really talked about this, and this is still like so far away that I don't even know if it's worth mentioning. But with all these draft picks, Giannis still floating out there. Seems like you're shutting it down right there.
No. It would require VJ Edgecombe. So no.
And you're still not willing to give up VJ for Giannis?
Jess, and that is, I think, one of the only real encouraging things that can come out of this stretch, right? The load that was placed on VJ Edgecombe without Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey on the floor was one that would be almost impossible for any rookie to carry. And now, granted, they're playing some really horrible teams. They played the Sacramento Kings and the Utah Jazz. But what VJ Edgecombe showed as a playmaker, as in his ability to work off the ball and be a catch and shoot guy, he was kind of a do-it-all Swiss Army knife for this team when they really needed a lot of different things, right? Without the abilities of Tyrese Maxey on the floor, without Joel Embiid on the floor, without Paul George, and he stepped up in a big way. So I think that's just, that's an asset I wouldn't be able to move. I don't view him maybe as a future all-star as some people do, but I think he's just a really, really great piece. And Todd, I think that is a great point. Detroit did not have Cade Cunningham, so that is a factor to think about there. But Atlanta has looked much better as of late. They're top 10 in efficiency on both ends of the floor. And if their offense can deliver come playoff time, I think they're going to be really dangerous in a first-round series.
Even without a Sixers playoff killer, Trae Young?
Yeah, I actually, I think we're seeing in Washington they might be better off without Sixer playoff killer Trae Young. Have you ever heard of the Ewing theory, Jess?
I've never heard of that gibberish in my entire life.
No, there's a guy named Bill Simmons. He's a very cool guy. It's a theory in the basketball community. Sometimes when you take away a team's best player, the team ends up getting better. It's based off the Patrick Ewing Knicks about 20 years ago. So the Atlanta Hawks are a serious Ewing theory candidate, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about the Wizards for a second.
Oh,
I know
okay.
this is not, I know this isn't Sixers related, but the Sixers, they've got to deal with the Wizards a lot.
Mhm.
And I mean, you read about them. I kind of I love what they're building. I do. They're pulling, a Sam Hinkie in a sense that they're trying to tank for good draft picks, but they've also built sort of a foundation around them that they can kind of do big things in 2027. Are you of that mindset, or do you think the Washington Wizards are the Washington Wizards and they're always doomed to be like, I don't know, the New York Mets? They're doomed for eternal failure.
Yeah, Jess. I mean, covering this team, I go kind of back and forth on the approach. I think the idea of Trae Young and Anthony Davis is very fun and very promising and potentially even good for playoff development. Everybody kind of assumes that losing and tanking and blah, 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 blah are always the best thing to kind of turn a team into a proper one and develop the young players. But having a guy like Anthony Davis, who's such a stout defender in the middle and can be the centerpiece of your unit on that end of the floor. And then Trae Young, who we know is the assist leader at times throughout his career, can be a great playmaker. I mean, those are factors that can really, at times, elevate your offense and your defense and help those young guys grow. The other side of it is that those guys are rarely healthy. There's a lot of money being committed to them. And when they are not on the floor, as of right now, it has looked, quite disastrous. The Wizards are actively trying to lose games right now. If you turn on your TV and watch, it's a team that's resting key starters late into games. They are doing a lot to try to lose games, but it is really diluting their young talent as well. Alex Sarr looks kind of lost right now on the floor. He's a big deal for them, a big prospect. Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson are all in the middle of pretty significant slumps due to not really any other offensive creation around them. It's really painful to watch. And so when Davis and Young are on the floor, yeah, I think there's room for them to continue to develop and grow a little bit maybe. But as of right now, as they're actively trying to lose and work towards 2026, I mean, I have to cover my eyes some nights, Jess. It's not good.
So, all right. So looking around the league, because like you mentioned, the NBA playoffs are 13 days away. So who are your favorites as of this point to win the whole damn thing? You've got Lakers, you've got the Spurs. You can even throw the Celtics in that mix, unfortunately. But are there any other teams that I'm missing here? And who is your NBA favorite?
Yeah, Jess. I mean, I think the big one is still Oklahoma City. It's still the defending champs. And
oh my God, I'm an idiot. How did I?
Dude.
Jesus.
I think they, since day one, have looked like the favorites, and I would really bank on that to continue. You have the MVP and a guy who's maybe catapulted himself into the best player in the world, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with what he's been able to do on both ends of the floor this season. They're getting Jalen Williams back healthy. He hasn't totally looked like himself yet. He had a rough night last night against Boston, but I think he could work himself back into the rotation and be a really key piece. Chet Holmgren has been even better defensively than he was a year ago, and it's just an incredibly, incredibly deep team. Jared McCain has given them a real boost. Sorry to say that on a Philly sports podcast. I see the look on your face. But, they're really fun. But if somebody's going to beat them, it's going to be San Antonio. And I think that's for sure. It's just whether or not that San Antonio team is too young, and we're going to find out come playoff time. We haven't seen Victor Wembanyama play playoff basketball yet. We haven't seen him have to hold up. So we'll find out a lot about them when he has to be put in that fold.
Definitely. All righty, folks. It's going to wrap things up for the Philly Sports Pulse Show here on 302 Birds. Shout out our sponsors, Nick's Pizza, El Diablo's, Tick Pick, for the support. We always appreciate that. All I gotta say, let's go Phils, and go Birds, and go Sixers.